It's BB and Dealey, we know you have been waiting, so here's another podcast about movies. Burn after watching.
Welcome to the Burn After Watching podcast. I'm Borderland,
And this is Dan.
and we are back. Finally, films are back. It's been a terrible couple months, like nothing to see.
It's almost like saying life is back. We're back to living, baby.
Baseball is about to start. Movies are getting good again. I mean, I guess you had the potential of Captain America, which I think you skipped on.
Yeah, I think it's almost hard for me to say, but I think I'm growing out of Marvel. There's almost been too many disappointing movies. Going back to like Thor: Love and Thunder, like where there was wasn't Christian Bale was supposed to be like Gore the God Conqueror or something, and though there are elements of it being good, it just has been quite devastating back to back. You commented on my lists, my big ticket items for 2025, and the Thunderbolts have some, like, it might be the movie that brings me back in. Might want to get back in on that one, but we'll see.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people are somewhat excited about this one. Like it could be good, but it's definitely a smaller, I guess. I mean, I never heard of Thunderbolt. Like myself, I'm not a superhero. Like I'm not a Marvel fan at all.
Yeah.
But I know Captain America. I know like Thor. So Thunderbolt is one of those where I think it's just. I mean, Guardian of the Galaxy was that too, and it did very well. But who knows, right? I think Fantastic Four is. I assume the sure hit of the year. It would be surprising if it flops because there's just so much hype. I think even if it's just an okay film, people will be really excited about, which I think 5 years ago, even a bad film, it made $1 billion. I think now people are like, all right, like only the good one are the one that I'm going to go and spend my time on. Like the Ant-Man thing didn't do very well. I think Captain America is not doing that well. It's not doing terrible, but it's not doing great. And it's surprising. You have Hulk or Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I've never been a fan. I'm excited about Superman coming out. It's going to be fun to, like, see good DC movie again. Because, I mean, as much as I don't like Marvel, like, I mean, I've seen a few of them, like Iron Man and such. Like, they were good. Like, it's just not interesting to me. And like the more they start to add things where like you have a list of things to watch to understand, the less interesting it was to me. But at least, DC was just a hot mess. So like I can't even say that DC was better.
But there's a lot of hope, right? It's just like,
I think so.
You were mentioning like Guardians of the Galaxy, like that was the first movie that the first movie I saw in theaters twice. Like me going back because I thought it was so good. And elements of why Guardians of the Galaxy was so great was because of James Gunn. So obviously Marvel screwed James Gunn, but now he's fully taken over the DC helm. So there's a lot to be hopeful for and excited for if you're a big DC fan, because
I think
people loved Guardians of the Galaxy, people can love Superman.
Dude, so he did a remake of Suicide Squad called The Suicide Squad. I watched that. It's so good. Have you seen it? And I never seen the 2016 or the bad one, but this one with John Cena and Idris Elba is excellent. I had just a blast. It's funny. It's actually like laugh out loud funny.
Oh yeah, John Cena in general is hilarious. He's like the Peacemaker, and he has his own HBO series called The Peacemaker. Hilarious. They have like the Polka Dot Man. They have King Shark. They have a bunch of characters that are very Weasel, like super unique. And Weasel is also James Gunn's brother, who also played a character in Guardians of the Galaxy. So it was very good. And he also made a cartoon episode, like series similar to Suicide Squad, and it had high accolades. I've never watched it myself, but people said it's really good. Yeah,
so I'm optimistic about Superman. I'll see. I will most likely watch a few Marvel movies, like the big ones. Anyway, Captain America didn't work out. I mean, just January, like I've been catching up on movies. The Oscars were really, really disappointing. Anora won Best Picture, which I thought was the most mid movie I've seen in a while. I mean, Conclave won a few things, which is nice.
Yeah.
I haven't seen The Brutalist yet. Like missed it in cinema, but yeah, it's just been dead. Like literally, like we haven't been to the cinema only to watch like either 2024 film that we're like just getting here, like I'm Still Here, or
Right.
finally we went to Mikey 17, which was the first 2025 film that we were like, okay, like we have to go see this.
Yeah, it's been a very dull, like a dull time. Like as you were saying, like even The Brutalist, obviously some controversy there because of the use of AI for his accent. But I haven't seen it yet because it's 3 hours long, and I don't want to sit in a theater for 3 hours.
3.5, but there's an intermission, man. Don't you appreciate
15
there's an
minutes.
intermission? That's not
That
bad.
that's very nice.
Hey, man, I mean,
But
most movie they wouldn't do that. You know, Killer of the Flower Moon, no intermission, 3 hours long.
no intermission. Yeah, like I game recognize game. You know, like I'm here for a 15-minute break where I can just use the facilities. But you're right, man. Outside of I haven't seen The Brutalist. The last most recent release film that I watched was, outside of obviously Mickey 17, is The Last Showgirl with Pamela
yeah.
Anderson. And
Yeah.
that was all right. You know, that was just all right.
Yeah, I saw it right before Christmas, I think, in cinema, and it was also. I personally think it was all right. Mary really liked it. Excited that we can finally talk because okay, right. So wait. So Bong Joon-ho, obviously Korean legend, at this
Icon.
point.
Yeah.
Icon. You are my friend Korean. I remember that the only post for a while on your Instagram was a photo of your TV the day that Parasite won Best Movie, of your boy doing his speech at the Oscar. Was the only photo on your Instagram page for like 3 years.
For years.
Until you had a girlfriend, and now you had to post a picture of your girlfriend, which is totally fair. A great way to like go into the second and third post. So for you, like new Bong Joon-ho film, like this is an event type thing. It's like Christopher Nolan releasing a movie, Denis
Yeah.
Villeneuve releasing a movie, Bong Joon-ho. To me, this is the same level. He's achieved that level that it's like it's an event.
Oh
So-
yeah, he's like this to me is obviously the height of Asian American representation came from Crazy Rich Asians, but what Bong Joon-ho has been able to prove himself is through several movies, even North American releases of the Snowpiercer.
Yep.
Fucking love Snowpiercer.
It's good.
The great scenes with Chris Evans just breaking his mold of Captain America and the kid who plays Billy Elliot. But Parasite slaps so
good.
hard.
I mean, everybody know it's just a fucking masterpiece. Like, everybody loves it.
It's there's if you find someone who hates Parasite, unfriend that person immediately.
But I feel like a lot of people haven't seen it in a while because it's not a movie that you just throw on. But I feel a lot of
No.
people are like, yeah, it was good. And then you like, how long has it been since you watched it? And then that's the only reason why they don't remember. I remember when it came out, me and you were in Toronto. We went to see it together. Did we see it first together, or you saw it first without me? And then I don't remember. We
I
went
can't remember, but we went together. I think for one of us, it was the first time.
from the trailer. There was definitely more of a Snowpiercer vibe than Parasite. Also, the fact that it's an English release. The only other two or one English, Okja, I think, is an English release on Netflix.
Yeah.
I believe it is. It happens mostly in Korea, so there's a lot of Korean language, but I think it's technically English release. And then you have Snowpiercer. I believe those are the two that are like fully English American production with 17. And I think the stream between of them, like what connect them in a way, is I feel like is American film are a lot less subtle. Like this, the theme and like the thing, like characters a lot more like over the top. Snowpiercer was not like crazy over the top, but like the villains really feel like a villain, the way they talk, etc. Okja is like the message are like right in front of you, like it's screaming at you about like the environment and like animal consumption and like how we treat animal. And this one to me feels like the most obvious one, and it's so funny because when you think about Memories of Murder, Parasite, The Host, Mother, all those films are like super toned down. But I think overall, all this film also have the I think his main theme and through all the movies are the the disparity between classes, right? The rich
Yes.
and the poor, the powerful and the weak. So
Mm-hmm.
this continued through, and I guess what was your kind of expectation and kind of first reaction coming out of the theater?
I thought it was really well done. I thought that just like with us talking about class disparity, you can see the differences of, obviously Paul Rudd's character, who can be,
Do you mean
read as
do do you mean Mark Ruffalo?
yes,
Yeah,
Ruffalo.
okay.
I don't know
I
why I
wasn't
keep
sure.
saying Paul Rudd. I
Donald Trump,
sometimes.
basically.
Yes, Donald Trump essentially in a most exaggerated way, but I thought it was really well done. I thought like there was a lot of great themes. There was a scene that stuck out to me near the end. I don't know if we want to go into spoilers or not, but it almost seemed like this was a bit of a simulation in a sense with the end scene of just before they. Spoiler alert! I'm sure.
Spoiler.
But just before they blow up the cloning machine,
Yeah.
he has this dream where Toni Collette is just like pops up beside the machine, and Mark Ruffalo is being cloned right now, and it makes it almost seem that everyone is a clone. So that's like my major takeaway was like, was it only Mickey who was being cloned? Because there's a scene when they do a flashback like 4 years ago. They have a conference talking about there can only be like one clone at a mission.
No
And it's
multiples.
supposed
Yeah.
no multiples, right? So Mickey's the only expendable. Or at least that was my understanding, that he was the only expendable on the mission.
On the
But-
mission, I think that's what the movie want us to think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But my takeaway was like, there's a good chance that everyone was an expendable. Everyone was potentially a clone, because if Toni Collette and Mark Ruffalo are potential clones, then I took it away as everybody was.
I guess at least maybe they were not cloned the entire time, but I think potentially the very powerful had copy, or like they whatever he does before, like he said like once a week they have to upload his mind, his memory,
Right.
everything into a disk. So that way he's never like unaware of what happened. So technically anyone can be doing this, can be a real human, but preemptively be updated, like uploading their mind into this kind of data brick that they
Yeah.
have, and then anytime if ever they die, someone can bring them back to life as a clone, right?
Yeah.
Technically it doesn't mean that they did it, but it's possible that they had always the option in case. It's interesting, right? Because yes, like there will be definitely benefit for some people to be able to do that. It's never explicitly called out, but like the last scene, I actually didn't. I read more of this is a simulation where like none of this is actually happening. But the fact that they could be real clone is interesting. I'm just trying to think: is there any other character that died that like we flash to, or we flash back to, or they look like they should have died, but for some reason they made it out alive, but it could have been like a switch of body kind of situation. I don't think so, because at the beginning when they do an expedition on the planet for the first time, one of the soldiers die under a pile of ice, and it's not like she come back, or there's an option to like bring her back, or it doesn't seem like it's explored at all.
No, because they had such a big thing around like fertility and like repopulating the planet, and they made such a large scene of like a young woman dying who was fertile and being like a carrier of food portions by half.
Yeah.
But you're right, there's no other hints that anyone else was a clone. Like my takeaways was that Mark Ruffalo, as well as obviously Mickey, there's a character transition of like being, Ruffalo is obviously extremely pompous in the beginning, but he becomes much worse and worse and worse as he becomes like a war colonel and all these silly things of killing like the little creepers. So anyone who had like a character change in my brain, there's a possibility that they were cloned, because with Mickey, there's multiple versions of his own character.
Yeah.
They were mentioning how one version was like a soft version, and this Mickey 18 technically was this crass, like he wasn't here for people's feelings, it was all about number one. So there's elements of characters who were their characteristics change over time, which made me think that there's possibilities of it.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think maybe on a second watch we could look for that. I didn't see anything that would like made me think of this immediately, but I think like
Yeah.
obviously like the option is there. So, and even I was thinking like when they were printing Robert Pattinson and like there was no bed for him to land on.
Yeah.
It's almost like why would this bed not be there except if like someone else was printed right before and they like wheel him out or something. But
Yeah.
there was never like any signal that I caught on that. One thing that I really love is Robert Pattinson. I think he did an amazing job.
Yeah.
I love his voice acting. Like it's really, especially coming off. I mean, I know he did a movie in between, especially like The Boy and the Heron. I think he does the Heron. But the Batman, where like his voice is like very dark and low and masculine, and here he has this squeaky, weird voice. It's really interesting. It's hard to. It was hard to like get everything he was saying sometime, but it was really fun and interesting, a cool choice. I feel like, I mean, it's a big risk to take for your main character to have such a weird voice for an entire movie where there's voiceover and narration. It's not like he's barely talking for like a big movie like this. Like it's an odd choice, but I really like it. I think maybe some people would get annoyed by it. I personally really thought it was good. Mark Ruffalo, I think, was good. It is very caricatural, like a caricature. How do you say that?
I think caricature. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's very over the top. So like, when you have like such an over the top performance, it might feel a bit like a bad performance at time because it's so uncanny, like it's not realistic. But it to me it worked and made me think of like his work in Poor Things.
Yeah.
I really like Naomi Aki, who plays kind of like the partner of Robert Pattinson. I think she was really good. And there's like the love triangle with the two Robert Pattinson was fun, and there's also with the other girl, Kay, right?
Yes.
Who's kind of like the Mark Ruffalo think is like the perfect woman to like repopulate the planet, and that dinner scene is so good.
It's amazing.
In your review, you said there was one scene that made me question. Now I understand that what you were talking about was the dream scene. I thought you were talking about the dinner scene, because the dinner scene for me was like a perfect execution, like a self-contained scene. It's so good. It reminded me of how good the scene with the peaches, or is it the peach or the mango in Parasite is.
The peaches,
like how everything works so well during that scene. The dinner, just like the escalation, the multi kind of plot that happened at the same time, where you have the scientists trying to like excuse, like saying sorry that they mess up something. Robert Pattinson is dying on the floor. There's the whole woman, Toni Collette, trying to make the best sauce and want people to eat the sauce. There's the fake meat stuff. It's just, there's so many things happening, but everything works so well. I thought that scene was so good. And also like a lot of people I heard didn't like the back and forth of the beginning, where like we go back, we learn about a little bit of what happened and how Robert Pattinson got on the ship, and we come back. I really like this way of telling the story. It makes things a lot more interesting. The only thing I didn't like was how the reason they got on the ship is because there's a bounty hunter chasing them for a debt that they have. And once they're on the ship, to me, it's like the story is kind of closed. Like they're on the ship, but they bring back as if the bounty hunter was able to get on the ship and has been traveling for like 4 years with them to get the debt, which to me makes absolutely no sense. But also it makes that arc of Stephen Kwan. Is it Stephen Kwan? Stephen Yeun.
Yeah.
Very convoluted at the end. It feels like it's kind of out of nowhere. They're trying to kind of solve this story on one side, and it kind of help at some point to make the story move along. But to me, that felt like unnecessary to like bring this back. They should have just kind of kept moving on and find another way for them to escape jail, which is the only reason really it's kind of helpful to have that story come back. But I felt like it just made this. That's the one thing I didn't love. Like it could probably be a 4.5 for me, but I felt like sometimes it was getting its own way with its stories.
Yeah, like that's a great point to bring up around like Stephen Yeun. Like that part did feel forced. I really liked how his character in the beginning was like, you know, this narcissistic guy who thought like it's all Mickey's fault even though he's in the wrong. And then he's able to, while Mickey's going to be an expendable, he has somehow swindled his way to become a pilot. I almost like loved it. Like, of course that asshole gets to be even better than me. And I loved how he obviously is a scumbag, so he's going to continue his ways. He's dealing narcotics onto the ship, and he somehow is like passed every single bullet. It's everyone else's fault but me. But that end was very soft. It almost felt like they set up that him being a drug dealer aspect, so then they can somehow tie this into them being hunted by the bounty hunter, and then this guy is helping him because he's feeding him drugs. So it did feel like a last minute loose end tying. But otherwise, I also liked Steven Yeun's character. This so cool, sophisticated, when in the beginning when he's like rappelling down into the glacier, this slick guy, and Mickey's like, he's like, that question I loved. How does it feel to die?
So
and
good.
Your best friend who's screwed your life is still going to be that guy to ask, how does it feel to die?
It's good. It keeps coming back. There's a lot of like really well baked kind of like theme and stuff that keeps happening. There's like a lot of like callback to other things that happened before.
Yeah,
it's really well weaved. It's just like the drugs kind of storyline and the henchman, bounty hunter was the two things that I was like, we don't really need this. It just kind of complicate things. Just the dilemma. To me, what we should have dig into a bit more, which I really liked, is like there's a flashback at some point about the philosophy of if a clone that has a multiple commit a crime, who goes to jail? Do they both go to jail for the same sentence? Do they split the sentence? Was one person more responsible than the others? Like, that was super interesting. So I thought, let's dive into that more. Like the philosophy, like all the repercussion of cloning is interesting. It doesn't have to be like all the story's about, but I think there was more there, less on the drug kind of like storyline. But at the same time, I understand like it was meant to be a bit more actiony, big kind of like people pleaser a bit more. I don't think it is, but I think they were trying to be a bit more like Snowpiercer, where like it's more like big event kind of film. And I think like the creeper, I really like the design of the creeper, the way that like the creature take Robert Pattinson out of the kind of like crevice is really Studio Ghibli. Like the way that it moves, it's really cool. The creeper design is cool. The ending is like, it's not underwhelming, but it's definitely not what you would expect for like a big ending. It's not like there's a big war or like a big battle. It's almost like a negotiation that lasts like 10-15 minutes. And it's a fun sequence, and I think it's really well done. Everything works very well. I think, again, it's like this movie was probably never meant to be like a big event movie, but maybe they wanted it to be. So like they push a bit like the limit of what you could do with it, because it felt more like a smaller, like Alien-like movie where it's like mid-budget, not trying to be a crowd pleaser, but just trying to be a good sci-fi. And it is a good sci-fi, but it's sold as this like Mad Max kind of like big movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. Like when you watch the original trailer, you think this is gonna be like, this is like the Dune essentially, right?
It
becomes
like a funnier Dune,
a funnier Dune. Like that ending sequence, like I love that Toni Collette was like, now whoever gets me like the most sauce is gonna live. And she sees both the Mickeys running. It's like, you're passing by so many sauce opportunities. Like, very funny. But what I was hoping for was, I thought the negotiation was a bit of a cop-out. There's two things I wanted to happen. One, I wanted the really big creeper to, instead of, I think he says like explode a bunch of times, but I wanted the creeper to eat Mark Ruffalo. I thought that would be a great opportunity because they've already shown like them cutting the creeper's tail to make sauce and like eating it. But I also wanted there's a character, the scientist who creates the device to make it like a translator. I almost wanted her to be a bit more involved in the end, to just speak to the big creeper. But I thought Mickey just exploding in that tank that Ruffalo comes in on was a bit of a cop-out. I wanted something that maybe a bit more, not gory, but a bit more like imaginary and a bit more like, I just wanted to hear a sound of the creeper eating Mark Ruffalo.
I understand. I think it would have been nice if like the Mikey, while they negotiate with the creeper basically tell them like we don't hurt people, like we pacifists or whatever, but
Yeah.
like we want to make them scared and make them think that we could hurt them. But like
Yeah.
Mickey know that they will never hurt the human, so he's like, oh fuck, so I need to like find a way to like finish this thing. And then
Yeah.
it would have been nice that like they break their own code, and it's like almost a kind of like a commentary about like if you keep pushing someone with like more extreme measure, which is kind of like the Donald Trump kind of alias,
Yeah.
eventually they will have no choice but to like punch back. And then like that would have been interesting. I think
Yeah.
like you kind of get this with Mikey 18 because he wants to live over Mikey 17, and then he sacrificed himself for like the greater good, which is like
Yeah.
a character arc where he's growing into like a better version of himself. So that's kind of nice. You know, like I kind of agree. Like I think the ending is good. It's just not what you would expect. I think it's still like a very well made. Visually, it's amazing. Like really cool. Like visually, there's a lot of really cool stuff. For me, Robert Pattinson is like half the reason you have to see this movie. It's just so good. And when you get the two of them together, the love triangle with Naomi Aki, where like all the iPad sex joke, like it's just there's a lot of a really good fun moment, and it's balancing like the funny, the adventure, I think pretty well. There's a lot going on, so I think some people will be turned off by that. I personally think that it worked, but not that I was expecting more, but it didn't hit like Snowpiercer hit. And I don't know,
No.
I guess for you, Snowpiercer to me feel like the closest thing you can compare it to. But this one is a bit more kooky. It's a bit more like off the chart. I don't know, like it's a bit more like odd, and it's cool for the originality of it, but it doesn't pay off the same way.
Yeah, I think that's like the best thing to say. Like the payoff isn't as satisfying. Whereas Snowpiercer, you get so many scenes of just pure chaos and pure like animosity of like it's gonna make me sound like I love physical violence, but like the physical violence with the Snowpiercer of like them like banging like their bats against a train, and then they realize they're about to go into a tunnel, and the guys put on night vision goggles. You're like, yes, like it's about to go down. But the ending of Mickey 17, though, it's like beautiful, and there's like really great elements of, you know, if we all work together, we're gonna live in harmony. We're now not invading the natives of this planet. We're living with them, so it's all beautiful tones. But for like an epic that I was expecting, it just there was, I don't know what that ingredient is, but it's like one or two notes away from perfect.
Yeah, I think there's a bit too much messiness and a bit too much like almost trying to make a story bigger than it is. And I feel like the story is good. You don't need to try to make it more than what it is. I think they could have kind of toned it down a bit, and it would have been probably better for it. But I understand that like probably the studio wanted to have like, we need to sell this as like a huge movie. Like we need people to think it's the next Mad Max. We need to think the people as the next Dune. But it's just not that type of film. Like Snowpiercer wasn't either. I guess before we go to Save and Burn, I think it's pretty clear what we like. But is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I'm trying to think what else I really liked about the movie. It's just a good time. Like for me, it's like, as you were mentioning, there's a good balance between comedy and action and drama. And like I probably laughed a bit more than I expected to. I guess one funny thing to call out was my partner Colleen. She thought the movie was called Mickey 77. So when we ended the movie, she said, like, I thought we were going to be in there forever. We only have Mickey 18 and we're only 2 hours in. So, we were both big fans, but that's about it.
I saw a couple news for what Bong Joon-ho want to do next. I know he has an animated film that he's working on. There's no date for this. It's untitled and everything, but he's been working on an animated film that is underwater. So that's interesting. He's said, so he's listed to be working on an horror action film in like a Korean one. So that would be going back to a Korean production. And you've mentioned that if there's one series of film, like a franchise that you want to partake in, it would be Aliens. and he would want to make an alien musical, which is like, I have no idea. I mean, I assume it's never going to happen. It feels like something that like
Right.
someone says as a joke, but you seem pretty serious. I don't know, like you might have an idea. Aliens, to me, when you think about Bong Joon-ho, I think Alien visually and like vibe-wise fit
Yeah.
pretty well. Like the almost like no hope kind of like feel of like Parasite or Memories of Murder or Snowpiercer. Like Alien works so well with that. The musical aspect, I have no idea how that makes sense, but
But, like-
I'd watch it, I guess.
Yeah, like the dystopian nature of all these films are very similar. Like, we have to do this thing in order to survive. I will say a nice little a shout out. The last Alien Redemption or whatever it was called, where it's like the young. There's like a
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, but it's great. It's
I mean,
thought it was
it's good. I didn't love it.
tomato. We were both fans, but to a different degree.
I don't even remember any. I mean, we don't even remember the name. Romulus.
Yes.
I gave it a 3-star. You gave it a. I don't even see your rating. Oh, 3.5.
But
Okay,
I
so
watched it again. Like it was good. It's a good it was a good action movie. But I'd be very curious about what a Aliens musical looks like. The immediate thought I have in my head for Alien musical, this is gonna be a deep cut. But on YouTube, you can search up Shia LaBeouf cannibal musical.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Oh god, it's if
So
it can
fun.
be anything as enticing as that, sign me up. I'll watch that sucker all day.
It's safe and it's a 4 stars. Go see it if you can. I think it's worth your time.
Yeah, very similar vibes. I'm a 4.5 out of 5. I'm a big
Nice.
time save. I'd say almost going in with no expectation is better. Like, don't even watch the trailer because then you won't have this idea that it's gonna be this epic. So if you go in with no expectations, don't watch the trailer, you're gonna have a great time.
Where would you rank it? Just curious because you mentioned obviously you love Parasite. I know you love Snowpiercer as well. I don't know if you've seen how much have you seen else.
I haven't
you
seen Memoirs of a Murder, which I know is like one of his top movies.
That's
But
a
I've
really good movie. That's early on. Yeah.
I've seen Okja, I've seen Snowpiercer, I've seen Parasite. I'm like 95% sure I've seen Mother, but I've probably
You've seen The Host?
think I have seen The Host. Mother seems like a movie that I'm repressing hard because I probably cried a bunch, but I'm gonna probably put this. I like.
So what's your
Okja
number
because-
one?
My number one is Parasite. It has to.
Number
Number
two?
two is Snowpiercer.
All right.
And then number three, it's either Mickey 17. It might be Okja because I really liked Okja as well.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Okja to me felt a bit too like silly, but it's good. I mean, I watched it recently. I think The Host for me, I need to rewatch Mother and Memories of Murder. It's a lot more Parasite and it's a
Yeah.
lot earlier, so it's not as satisfying, but it's really good. And The Host to me is excellent. So yeah, like Mickey 17 is in the bottom half, but at the same time, like all this movie are good movies. So even being in the bottom half still means that you're in the positive.
Oh yeah, big time. We're big time. Bong
Boom.
Joe-ho.
Bonjour.
Bonjour,
Ho.
bonjour, bonjour, ho.
Bonjour.
Hello,
Ho.
ho.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Anyway, we're going to be back for stuff coming up in the next few weeks. Stay alert, stay alive.
Go out there, have some fun, watch some movies. It's we're back, baby. We're freaking back.
We're back. Thank you, everyone.